my name is Hali and I like to read. I'm trying to be more active on YouTube as well as my TikTok. And so I decided to make a video of all of the books that I read in the first half of 2025. I read 32 books in the first 6 months of 2025. And my goal this year was to read 40 books, which is crazy. I've almost already read as many books as I read last year in the first 6 months of this year, which is crazy. The first book I read this year was Binding 13. It was one of the first darker books I've ever read. It was really good. I was really upset with the cliffhanger. I rated Binding 13 3.5 stars. The next book I read was Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins. I wrote this book was devastating but beautiful. I fell in love with Lauren, the main character, and Josh. This was a good palate cleanser, which is true because Binding 13 was a lot and it made me kind of sad. But then Pack Up the Moon literally devastated me. So I don't know how it was a palate cleanser. Maybe because it had a happy ending, kind of happy ending, I don't know. Anyways, next is my first 5-star read of this year, which was Ready or Not by Kara Bastone. I wrote, I fell in love with Eve, and then Ethan, and then Shep. Such a good book. Next, I read Onyx Storm, another 5-star book in the moment. I think now I would rate it like 4.5 stars. I rated it 5 stars when I was still on the Onyx Storm high. I wrote, my jaw dropped so many times. My heart was constantly racing. I'm confused, not happy with the cliffhanger, and I want the next book now. Okay. And then I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. I have mixed feelings about the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. I cannot handle the grumpy man, sunshine girl trope. It drives me crazy. I rated it 4 stars though. So I mean, how crazy did it drive me? I don't know. I didn't write anything about that one though. Next I read The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. So good. Holy crap. I rated it 4.75 stars and I wrote, I'm deeply disturbed, but it was still good. This book kept me up at night. It kind of freaked me out a little bit, but I'm really glad I read it because that whole situation, crazy. I'm not gonna go into it, but yeah. Then I read Better Than the Movies. I rated it a 3 star. I didn't realize it was YA. So getting into the mindset of high schoolers, especially these ones, was hard for me. Just because they're dramatic, they're high schoolers, everything is a huge deal, whatever. It wasn't my favorite, but the storyline was good and it was cute. I wrote, it was cute, definitely YA. Livy was hard to not get annoyed with. She constantly used the men in the story, and I wasn't a fan of the off-the-wall lying, which she did make off-the-wall lies. My next 5-star book of the year was Out on a Limb by Hannah Bottom Young. You're gonna kind of see a pattern here. I read a lot of Hannah Bottom Young after I read this book. I wrote, I will now name my next child August because of this book. Crying emojis. It was so good. So cute. Next, I read Quicksilver. TikTok obviously influenced me with this one. It was really good though. It was hard for me to get into it first. I tried reading it on my Kindle first, and then I ended up listening to the audiobook, and that helped a lot. And it was actually really good. I didn't realize it was the only book out in this series, and I was really upset. And I wrote, I'm really upset because I didn't realize this was the only book out in the series. I love this book. It was slow at times, but the ending was definitely a shock. It was so good. Yeah. Next, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I gave it 4.5 stars. I didn't write anything about that one. Let's see. I kind of started to get a little bit lazy with my ratings after this. I read Out of the Woods by Hannah Bottom Young. I rated it 4 stars. And then next, another 5-star book, Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I read this book in under 24 hours because I was so obsessed with it. I think about it all the time. Super good book. I finished this book in 24 hours. It was so, in all capitals, good. I can't wait to read the next one, which I literally read the next one 2 days later. So I read Next of Kin by Hannah Bottom Young next, and I rated that 4 stars. And then Rebel Witch by Kristen Sister Ellie, I rated 4.75 stars. I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I rated it 4.75 stars. I read this one on vacation. It's probably my favorite vacation book I've ever read. It was super good. Next, I read Fearless by Lauren Roberts because it came out at this time. I think it was April. It was a good book. It wasn't my favorite out of the series. I really do think the first book is my favorite out of the whole series, but it was very good. I rated it 4 stars. Next, I read Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young, 4 stars. And then I read my first Abby Jimenez book, and you will see yet another pattern where I literally just read a ton of Abby Jimenez books because I became obsessed with her. So the first one I read was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, 5 stars. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, 4.5 stars. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, 4 stars. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, 4 stars. And the next, I kind of needed something different than all the Abby Jimenez love stories. So I read Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. I didn't think I was gonna like this book. I ended up loving it. I was a little confused at first, to be honest. But once I kind of started to understand and realized what was going on, I really liked it. I rated it 4.5 stars. And then I tried again with an Elsie Silver book. I read Heartless, the 3rd book or 2nd book in the Chestnut Spring series. I can't remember. I rated it 4 stars. Looking back, I think now I would rate it 3. I just liked the ending. Okay, now we're gonna get into my Kristen Hanna obsession. As you can tell by now, once I find an author that I really love their book or I get a 5-star out of, I want to read all of their books, or at least a bunch of them in a row. So next I read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This book rocked my world. It was such a good book, 5 stars. Then I read The Nightingale, 4 stars. The Women, 5 stars. 4 Winds, 4.5 stars. Anyways, that is the end of this video. That is all 32 books that I read in the first half of 2025. Thanks for watching and listening to me ramble about books. It's my favorite thing to talk about, obviously.